And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Ryan Metzler.
Hey everybody, it's Ryan Metzler here again, and today we're going to take a look at a game by a designer who is famous for doing rondel games, and this is not one of them, surprisingly. We're going to take a look at Concordia, which is a game by Matt Gertz. He's the rondel person behind Hamburgum and things like Antique, all types of different games. This one, no rondel at all. Put out by Rio Grande and PD Games, and we're going to go ahead and take a look at how it plays. It's a game about trying to expand your empire, trying to generate resources and build more cities in order to generate more resources, in order to please the gods. And each of the cards that you'll accumulate throughout the game will have a different way of scoring. So real quick, we'll take a look at what you get inside of this box. We'll see how the game plays, and then we'll come back here at the end and we'll get my opinions on Concordia. So here you can see the game board for Concordia. Now on this side we have the 2 to 4 player Italia map, so if you have 2 players you must play on this side. On the other side we have the 3 to 5 player Imperium map, so this will play 5 but won't play 2. I'm going to show you the Italia side, but I just wanted to show you the nice double-sided board real quick before we got into the game. So here you can see Concordia all set up for 2 players. Each player is going to start the game with 2 colonists in the center city. You're going to have a land and a sea colonist, a little guy in a little boat, starting in Rome. The only difference between these is that sea guys will move across the blue lines, land guys will move across the brown lines. So you kind of have to have the right guys to move to the right places, but they're pretty much similar for all other intents and purposes. On this board here, each person's going to have 2 more of each of those types of colonists, 2 food, 1 tool, a cloth, a brick, and a wine for some starting resources. Each player will also have some starting money, and they're going to have these houses that they're trying to build into these different cities to produce more resources and, of course, further their position in the game. In addition, each player is going to start with 7 cards, and these cards are going to be what you play on your turn to take an action, always taking 1 action by playing 1 card, and there's 1 card that allows you to pick all of your cards back up, earn some money, and replenish your hand, of course. So, how do these cards work? On your turn, you will play a card, and each card has on it the name of the card and the action. So this is the Architect. It allows you to play and move your colonists and then build in cities that are adjacent to your colonists as long as you have the appropriate resources. When you play this, it's going to give you 1 movement point for each of your guys that you have on the board currently. So right now, we have 2. That would give us 2 movement points, and a movement point is moving from the city, the central city, to either on a track like this is 1 movement point to move out of Rome, or across a city to another adjacent track. So 2 movement with this boat would be 1, 2. Instead, I could split it between my land and my sea and move 1, 2. 1 off of Rome to here and 1 off of Rome to there. Once I'm done, I can build in adjacent cities. So you can take a look at this chart here and it tells you how much it costs to build. To build in a brick city, it costs you food and a money, and more money if there's more houses already there, but we're going to bypass that. So I could pay a food from my supply and a money in order to build here. That would put a house out there, and it's going to basically move me towards ending the game and probably give me points and resource production later. The other types of cities are more expensive, always costing at least 1 brick, then either a food, a tool, a wine, or a cloth, depending on what type of city it is, and increasing amounts of money to build on them. So the better the resource, the more money it will cost you. You may build as many of those as you want as long as you have the appropriate resources, of course paying them back to the supply as you do so. The next type of card we have here is the Mercator, which is basically a market card. It's going to let you get 3 money, and then you can trade resources that you have with the market. And on your board, it tells you their costs. So you can sell bricks and buy food, or sell food and buy tools, or sell both tools and food. Whatever the case is, you can sell or buy up to 2 different types of goods. The next card we have here is the Prefect. You can play the Prefect, and what that's going to do is it's going to let you turn over one of these active tiles up here. Each province has a tile associated with it, and that tile is going to be the most expensive good that is made in that province. So for example, in Venetia up here we have a city that makes cloth. So Venetia's is cloth. What you can do is you can flip over one of these tiles with the Prefect card, and what that's going to do is it's going to give you a cloth, and then every building in that area that's already built by a player is going to produce the corresponding good. So if you had a building in this cloth, and you flip that over, you would get 2 cloth. 1 for the flip over, and 1 for the building that produced cloth. If your opponent had a building in the food, they would get a food as well, but you're going to get the bonus for starting the production there. There's also a card that the last player has. If they take this action, they double the bonus. So if they were to flip this over, they'd get a 2 cloth bonus for flipping it over, plus whatever is produced in that area. The other option is that instead of taking and flipping one of those tiles over, you may restore all of the flipped over tiles, which will show a money token on the other side, to their normal side, showing the resource. And when you do that, you will get all of the money that's shown on the other side. So I'd get 1 for flipping this back over, and any other money that was shown would flip back over, and you'd collect that much money into your own personal pool. The next card we have is the Diplomat. That's going to let you use the top card of an opponent's discard pile. So as you play these cards, you'll play them into a discard pile. This lets you copy whatever is on top of your opponent's discard pile and use that action. So essentially you can use an action twice because your opponent's played it and you've already played yours, but you want to use it another time. I should note that there are 2 prefect cards, the previous action I showed you in your deck, so you can do that twice, producing goods basically. We also have a Senator card. This is going to let you purchase more cards for your hand. So you can purchase up to 2 new additional personality cards and put them directly in your hand. The cards you're going to buy are up here in this track, and they're going to be more of the same types of cards and a couple of new ones. So we have the Architect here again that lets you move. We have more prefects over here. We have another Diplomat, another Mercator, but there's a couple of new ones. We have things like the Smithy here, or the Smith. That's going to let you, and you alone, produce in all of your tool-producing cities. So you can play this card, and it'll produce everywhere that you've got a tool, giving you that many tools to store on your board. There are similar ones like the Farmer that's going to do the same thing for food. But we also have things like the Colonist here. The Colonist will let you build more colonists when you play it, paying a food and a tool for each one you want to build. And you'll put that out in a city where you've built one of your little houses, or in the center in Rome to be moved later. In addition, instead of doing that, you can take 5 money plus 1 for each colonist you've built out on the board. So you have 2 choices, either build new colonists or get some money in a different manner. In order to buy these cards, you're going to have to pay a cost, and that cost is essentially printed right on the card, or at least the base cost. This one right here is going to cost you 1 tool. In addition, you have to pay the cost that's printed below the card. So the first cards here don't have an additional cost, but as you move this direction, it's going to cost you any resource in addition, or this one will cost you a cloth, any resource and a cloth, and 2 cloth all the way at the end, which is very expensive. So it's best to wait for them to move down unless you really need a specific card. So that's how the Senator works. So now we're back to the Architect, but there's one card that I skipped, which is Tribune. The Tribune card you're going to play when you want to pick all of your cards back up in order to put them back into your hand. When you do this, you're going to check and see how many cards you've already played. And if you've played 3, or more than 3, I should say, you're going to get 1 money for each card more than 3 that you've played, picking it back up and putting them into your hand and taking the extra money as kind of a bonus for playing more of your cards before you pick them back up to get them back into your hand. In addition, it's going to let you build an additional colonist in Rome for a food and a tool. So it just gives you another option to build something out. Now, the idea of the game is to build all of your buildings and end the game, or to buy all of the cards from this to end the game, then have the most points at the end. But how are you going to get points? Well, points are going to be based on the cards that you've bought as well. You'll see at the bottom here that there is a god mentioned. This one is Mars. But if we go through, we also have Mercury. And each of these cards is going to score in a different way. So we'll flip this little guide over and we'll take a look at how they score. So we have Vesta here. At the end of the game, you're going to sell all of your resources back to get money at the cost shown on this board. When you do so, you're going to get money, and you're going to take that money, divide it by 10, and get 1 point for each Vesta card that you have. The next god down, the blue god, which is Jupiter, is going to give you 1 for each city you've built on the board on non-bricks. So all of these little buildings you build, if they're not on brick cities, will be worth 1 point for each one of the Jupiter cards you have. Saturn is going to give you 1 for each province that you've built in. So if you spread yourself out on the board, you're going to get a bunch of points from Jupiter. We have Mercury, who's going to give you 1 for each different type of good that your cities can produce. So you'll look and see, can I produce a cloth? Can I produce tools? And it's actually 2 for each one of those for Mercury, not just 1. So each Mercury card will give you more points for the more types of goods you can produce. Mars is going to give you 2 points for each colonist you've got out on the board. So that's going to reward you for building these out. Each Mars card will give you 2 points for each colonist. And finally, we have Minerva, which is these special ones out here. It's going to say that you're going to get 3 points, for example, for this one, for each one of your tool buildings that you've got on the board. So building in tools is going to be good if you've got the Minerva cards. Or if you've got the Farmer Minerva card, it's going to be for each one of the food buildings that you've built. So you'll see that you're going to pick up new cards and try and specialize in certain areas, get the most points you can by the end of the game, and whoever has the most points by building out, spreading out, getting their colonists on the board, building a variety, and building an expansion across all of Italy, or across Imperium on the other side, is going to be the winner. And there you have it. That is Concordia by Matt Gertz, Rio Grande and PD Games. Now, this is a little bit simpler Gertz game in my opinion. He has things like Antique and Antique Duellum, which are both games that actually feel pretty similar to this one to me. Now, I've heard from other people that Navigador is the game that they would compare this to. I've only played that once, and it's been so long ago I don't remember it, but I have several comparisons to draw to Antique here. Now, in Antique, you're trying to spread out, you're trying to use colonists and different legions and ships in order to build different cities, to build temples, and have a little bit of warfare going on, controlling different areas. This is not that complex. Antique has war aspects and temples that you can build up, and if you occupy a certain amount of sea spaces or land spaces, or you have a certain number of cities, you will get a essentially personality card or some type of victory card that leads you towards winning the game. So there are different ways to score points or to get these personalities that will let you win the game, and it's kind of a race to that end. Now this one's a little bit different than that. You're trying to move around, you're trying to collect resources and get different cards that will let you score in different ways. It removes the rondel, which simplifies the game a little bit. It removes some of the other aspects, which simplify the game a little bit, but they feel similar to me, with one being heavier and one being lighter. But all in all, they feel pretty similar to me. Now, this is not what I would call a great game. I'd call it a very good game, and even one that might make my top 10 for the year. With, realizing that there's not that many great games that came out this year for me. There's several very good ones and a couple of great ones, but this one falls in the very good. I like the weight of it because you can sit down and teach it a little bit easier, like something like Antique or Antique Duellum, but when it comes down to it, if it's just me and the core group of gamers that I like to play with, I'm going to choose the heavier game pretty much every time. I like the strategy that it offers. But if you're looking for something a little bit lighter in the Gertz genre or the Gertz field of games, this is definitely one I would suggest checking out. If you're intimidated by the rondel, or you simply don't want to deal with warfare and conflict as much, this is going to be a good one for you. So, if that sounds good for you, if you're looking for something a little bit lighter but still with some great strategy, a whole lot of options for scoring victory points, check it out. That's Concordia.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.